Hello and welcome to Love Anything Art. Today I have a fun little project for you, doing kind of a faux wood look, but not with wood colors like browns. I'm going to be doing a very colorful wood veneer. So I hope you join me and I hope you enjoy this tutorial. So get your beverage ready, get your clay ready, get yourself seated, and let's do a little project. Gonna be doing some pink in this project. I like pink. Sorry if you don't. You can use whatever colors, of course, that you want. I was kind of going for like more bland colors, I guess you would say, and then like one pop of a color. So I'm gonna be doing some purples, and by the way, that's a really pretty pattern that it made against the tinfoil. Little randomness there for you. Anywho, I was wanting to do just like a pop of color, and I thought pink is a very nice pop of color. The other colors I'll be using will be blues, basically, and then of course the translucent clay is going to kind of dilute everything a little bit because I'm not using a lot of alcohol inks. So just wanted a little pop of color. You could do whatever you wanted to depending on, your color scheme. Maybe your pop of color is red or yellow, and the other colors are kind of, a little bit more muted or toned down. Basically, I'm going to kind of make a little bullseye cane, and I am going to kind of show you the whole process. I'm cutting out a little bit here and there, but I wanted to show you the exact layering that I did. So if it's a little bit slower than some of my other videos, that's why. Kind of wanted you to see exactly how I was building it. So if you did want to replicate it with these colors or similar colors, you can kind of do the same thing. Really, I'm just kind of having fun with this project like I do in all my projects. I will tell you a little bit about myself and my channel just in case you're new. I know I have a few people that have been following me for a couple of years now, but this might be old news for them. But I have been on YouTube making clay videos since 2020. And then this year I actually started another channel where I make budget food. So I will leave a link below for you if you want to check out that budget meal channel. I've been really into making a lot of different kinds of foods and trying to do it basically on a budget because food is expensive. But anyway, back to clay. So just kind of rolling out each section. Honestly, if you wanted to, you could make them thicker, but since this is a bullseye cane and it's going to actually go in between some of the other layers, it's going to need to get flattened. So I didn't want like a huge 5-inch bullseye cane or anything like that. I was trying to make it a little bit on the smaller side. And honestly, you could make different sizes and put it inside, as you'll see later on, and that'll kind of give your piece a little bit more variety to it. But I'm just going to roll it out to basically the same size, and I have plenty of the bullseye cane left, which I will be doing a scrap clay project at the end with all of my leftovers. I've been kind of into doing that lately, showing you what I make with the leftovers, because honestly, sometimes I think that is more pretty and has a lot more variety to it than a lot of the projects that I do. Something about that scrap clay, when you mix it, a little bit of magic happens. And I was showing you a minute ago while I was kind of flapping my gums, that purple color that you see is actually a color that I mixed with a bunch of scrap clay that I had. I did a video a while back where I made 15 or 20 different colors from scrap clay. Basically, I had just baggies and baggies of scrap clay, so I took some time, sorted it out by color scheme. So if there was a lot of purples in the scrap clay, or there was a lot of pinks in the scrap clay, or a lot of blues, I put all that together, and then I ran it through the pasta machine and mixed it really good, and then I came up with colors, and they all came out really pretty. So if you don't know what to do with your scrap clay, you could just mix them up by color coordinating it and come up with colors. So that purple that I have is the scrap clay. Honestly, you could probably find a pretty similar color to this if you just went into a store or online, which is another thing. I can't find a nice variety of clay colors in the store. I always find that I have to go online to search for them. I have a Michael's close by my house, and they do sell polymer clay, and they actually have their own store brand, which I don't really like the quality of that, but that's another story. They have a pretty good variety there, and ever since 2020, it's just kind of been that way, that they didn't have a lot, but it's kind of bulking up a little bit more now. But I think that the variety of colors you can find are way better online. So you could find a purple color like that online, or you could just make your own purple color, or you could use alcohol inks. But on the alcohol inks, I've found that the purple comes out blue once it's baked. So I can't quite get a purple from the alcohol inks. But that was a long tangent. And anyway, I'm still kind of mixing up my colors here, just showing you the layers. And I decided actually to go ahead and end on the purple. I was going to do the translucent on the outside, but I thought that the purple kind of wrapped up the bullseye cane a little bit better. That was just a personal preference. Some more translucent clay here. I actually just went to the store and picked up 2 new blocks or bricks of it at my Michael's. Really, I should go online and buy like a huge block, but I don't have that much money to invest in that. These were $3 something for the 2, and I kind of wanted to do the project today, so I did need to pick up a block. I have my colors here. I'm going to be doing the cobalt, the sky blue, and then the lilac. And as I was saying earlier, the lilac, which is purple, is going to come out blue when I bake it. But it's a nice, pretty blue. Like, I don't know, there's something special to it. So that's why I decided to use the purple, which will be blue, in this project, because I wanted it all blue and then my pop of pink. I wish that the alcohol ink companies could get their colors like closer to baking, and I don't know if it just has something to do with the heat in the oven as to why they change so much when they bake. I don't know, but these colors, just the way they are, I wish they would come out like that. But I guess the only way to truly get it closer would be to use like actual clay that's already been colored. It does change slightly. It usually gets darker once you bake it. But when you have alcohol inks and you bake them, they generally change a lot. I don't know. That's just been my experience. Again, I'm rolling these out really, really thin. You could make these layers thicker. I think that that might actually give the piece a little bit more depth because the layers are so thin, they're so close together. So like when you're rolling it out and flattening it, it kind of loses some of that dimension that you would normally get. So I usually find that the thicker the translucent clay layers are, the wider that gap is, the more, I guess, depth you get to your piece. But I made mine thin in this case. You could make yours as thick as you want. And then I'll just begin stacking them. Really, you can stack them in whatever order you want. If you wanted to put a piece of translucent clay in between each of the layers, you could. Obviously, with everything that you do differently, it's gonna make your piece different. But that's kind of the fun and beauty of it. You might see this idea on YouTube and you'd be like, you know what? I want to change this, or this sparks an idea in my brain and I want to do that. So use your creative license and make what makes you happy. Got all my pretty colors here, stacking them up, rolling them out. I'm not trying to like completely distort each layer, but kind of flattening it a little bit because I am going to cut this in half and then stack it on top of each other. So using a little bit of translucent clay in between the layers that I'm going to stack. Really, you could put it on both sides if you wanted to. I believe I just did it on the one side. Got yourself a little clay sandwich going there. And then I had a little bit of that blue that was hanging over, so I had cut that off, and I'm going to put that as an additional layer. And if you wanted to do more than 3 colors, you could do that. You would have a very nice striped piece, I think. A lot more color variety in your piece. Maybe you wanted to do every color under the sun and make like a rainbow color or a rainbow effect to it, I guess. That would be fun too. It's always nice to kind of think about different things I would do as I'm kind of doing my voiceovers, and like, you know what? This would have been cool. It's just one of those things, like when you're in the meat of the project, you don't necessarily focus on, or for me anyway, other avenues and things to do. I'm just so focused on, I'm supposed to do this, and then I'm supposed to do that, and this was the idea I had, so I'm kind of going with that. So it's kind of fun to go over that stuff as I'm doing my voiceovers and thinking, you know what, that might be a good idea for another video. And I am going to put a little layer of pink in there. Really, I wanted the bullseye to be mostly where the pop of pink was, but I did want like maybe like a slight vein or two of the pink inside of there, so that's why I put that in there. You could put more if you wanted to. I actually realized I don't use a lot of white clay in my projects. I used to in the beginning of my channel. I used to make a lot of like little knick-knacky kind of pieces of jewelry. Like I would make little cat heads, or I would do themed kind of jewelry. Like I would make little gnomes for Christmas with Christmas colored clothing on it. I did like Easter themed kind of jewelry, did like an Easter bunny, that sort of stuff. And I used a lot more white back then, but I have found that since white is so hard to keep clean, I don't use it a lot. So I was just thinking that as I was watching this video, maybe I might want to do like a project where I use a little bit more white clay, because I actually have a ton of it. Or you could actually use white clay and then alcohol inks and make your own color out of it. You could do that too. Same with the translucent, but with the translucent, I always feel that, you know, you get that more of a transparent look, or if you're going for like a stone look, you would want to go with the translucent over a solid color clay. You could always mix both together, like I do in some of my projects. A little bit of alcohol ink, a little bit of regular colored clay. And I was just trying to decide which side I wanted to smush together, if I wanted it pink to pink, or blue to pink, or how I really wanted to do it, which side I wanted to put it on. And if you really want to kind of further distort your piece, you could make little lines in it. I don't want it to be like, oh, I'm a squiggly line. So I didn't want to do it too deep, and I didn't want to kind of go overboard and make it more of like a tie-dye looking kind of wavy, fun inflatable tube dude. So I just did it on the one side, just a little experiment there, just seeing how it comes out. Didn't want the lines completely straight either. Sometimes that's nice in a piece, but sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of variety or a little bump in the colors that you have going in your piece. And then I had a little bit more translucent clay, so I thought, what the heck, I'll just go ahead and put that on there and kind of build up an additional layer in my piece. As you'll see, the little bullseyes that I put inside, you could do like 5 or 6 in a row if you wanted to, but I am going to cut this in half and stack it, so it's already going to kind of duplicate itself. But maybe you wanted to put a couple of small ones, or between each of the layers to begin with, you could have put like little itty bitty ones maybe, and then a couple large ones as you were stacking it up. I didn't really want too many little knot holes in mine, so that's totally up to you. The more you put, the more knot holes you will have. You'll see there it doubles up. And honestly, you can flatten and restack and cut and restack as many times as you want. You will lose more and more of the pattern as you go. So I didn't want to do it more than the one time. Feel free to do it as many as you want. And this is my little piece that I have. I'm going to cut it into even length sections or pieces or chunks. You could just shave off thinner pieces and then put that on maybe a piece of translucent clay and then make a veneer out of it that way. But I didn't want to use any additional clay, so I just decided to go ahead and cut it into a few even depth pieces and then stack them next to each other and make a veneer that way. You could offset your little knot holes to the sides if you wanted to. Maybe you do one way and then one the other, or just make them kind of go straight down like I'm going to do. And you can further distort it from this point if you want it to kind of stretch the clay, roll it out, make wavy lines in it, and I'll kind of show you a few little things I'm going to do. So it's not just a straight lined piece. I am going to just distort it a little bit, but I don't want it to get too funky in here, guys. I ain't gonna get crazy. Not today. And for the most part, I am trying to roll in one direction, not so much the up and down, but from the side to side, because that's how my piece goes, so that if it stretches, it goes from left to right instead of top to bottom. You could distort your piece by kind of just pinching it and pulling out. You could do that from side to side. You can do that top to bottom. You could do it just in little sections. Maybe you just want the middle to be distorted, but not the rest. You'll see there, it kind of gave you little wavy lines. Not too crazy, but a little funness there. I'm going to use the side of a paintbrush. You can use any tool you want. And I'm going to kind of put it on the clay, not too hard, and then press down a little bit, but you don't want to scrape it, like completely like run it through the clay, because it will muddy it. I'm just pushing down with a pretty good force and then pushing up with it and pushing down with it, moving each little section. And there you go. You can also use your fingers if you wanted to. Again, not spreading it out, but just like pinching it out like you kind of would do on your phone when you want to zoom in on something, and then roll it, and then there you go. You can make it as thin as you want to. You could take this and put it on another piece of clay and make it thicker if you want to. You could do translucent clay. You could do a solid color clay. If you do solid, it is going to make it to where it's no longer got that kind of depth or see-through look to it. I am getting mine pretty thin because I am going to fold it over on itself and make it thicker. That way I can cut out my pieces and it's a pretty good thickness. You could just take little pieces and put it inside of a mold if you wanted to, and then fill the mold up with your scraps that you have that you cut away. Whatever you really want it to do with that. Like I said, just folding it over, and this will give it a pretty good thickness so that I can cut out a few pieces. And then I like using paper. You could also do this with the metal cutters too, but you put your paper cutter on there and then you kind of run your fingers over it, and it will leave an indent or a light outline of where it is, and that way you can see, no, I don't like the way that's going to cut. I don't like the way that's going to look. I don't like the way the pattern looks. And then you can kind of move it and then decide before you make your cut, exactly how you want it to look. It does change the piece if you kind of play with it a little bit. And I did for like 10-15 minutes before I finally decided of how I was going to cut something out. And then these are all of the scraps that I have. So I do like to make scrap pieces with my stuff. Really, you could chop this up if you wanted to and then roll it out. You could chop it up and then put it in a mold and then pop it out of the mold and have little pieces. I just decided to take all of my flattened pieces that I had and stack them up together, and then I'm gonna make like a big veneer out of that. Looks kind of weird and funky, like it ain't gonna look pretty, but it actually comes out pretty funky and interesting and fresh looking. And I had my little tube, my little bullseye tube that I did cut into little slices, and I will take those slices and place them on top of the scrap clay. This is going to give you a 3D kind of look to it. It's going to give the piece a lot of dimension. Kind of with translucent clay, it does that. When you stack the layers on top of each other, you start to get a really, really nice dimensional piece, especially when you use regular clay that's already been colored, traditional clay, not translucent, which is kind of what you got with that purple. And you'll see here when I'm talking about the dimension, each piece stacks on top of each other, and the colors are going to pop forward, and that translucent clay is going to kind of sink to the back visually. And then when you cut out your piece, you're going to get a nice little dimensional kind of aspect to your piece. So fun, fun, fun. Again, I'm just stretching it out, distorting it. I will fold it in half. That's how I like to double it up. And that way the front and the back are the same pattern. Since I only put those little circles on the front, now it's on the front and the back. And then I cut out a piece, obviously, and this is it. See that dimension right there? I just love that. All the other colors fade it to the back, and you have that nice little pattern in the front. And even in the circle layers in between, you can kind of see the clay comes forward and that translucent goes to the back. And then the back's quite pretty too. It has a little bit of placking in there. I love that. I love that look. I think it just gives the clay a nice, pretty, pretty look. And then this is the piece that I made from my pattern. It's very pretty. It has a little bit of dimension to it too, where the purple is in the clay. I just think it came out really, really nice. I just love it. It's like a sky with little floaty, colorful clouds in it. I like it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I had so much fun with you. Please subscribe. Check out my other channel. Come check me out every week. I make videos all over the place. And I also have a Patreon for the food channel, so if you are interested in that. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye!